We'll go ahead and get the meeting started. Call this meeting to order. I'd like to thank everybody for being here tonight. To begin, we'll do roll call, starting with Councilman Labrum.
Here.
Councilman White.
Here.
Councilman Baird.
Here.
Aaron's asked to be excused. He's on a business trip, right, Mindy? So we'll excuse him, and Councilman Burdick.
Here.
All right. To get started, we'll go ahead and have an opening prayer, and we've asked Cody to give that prayer, and then following the prayer, if you'd follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Dear God, Heavenly Father, we're grateful to meet this evening. We're thankful for the many things we've been blessed with, and we're grateful for this country in which we live. We're grateful for the freedoms that we have, the ability to make choices, and we're thankful at this time for those who have gone before and sacrificed their time and their talents to help out in our community, and we ask that we can continue to follow in their examples and be able to make decisions and make hard decisions and use that influence to make correct decisions. And we're grateful once again for these opportunities that we've been blessed with in this great land in which we have to live and be citizens in Jesus Christ.
Amen. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, and the first item of business, we'll go ahead and take care of the minutes. Looking over those, does anybody have any amendments or changes that they'd like to make to the minutes? Seeing none, would entertain a motion to approve.
So move.
I'll second it.
A motion by Councilman White and second by Councilman Baird. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Now, I'm new at this. This is the first change in positions council that I've experienced, so I'm kind of in uncommon ground here. But I think we ought to recognize the outgoing first, and then we'll swear in the new. Should we do it that way? I do have some plaques here to present, but I'd like to take a minute and just voice my appreciation for the former council, for the council members that are leaving us. And Dave, I can't remember, how many years total have you served?
About 6 3/4.
Okay. Almost 7. I know Councilman Burdick, you've been at least 6 years with us.
Just 6. Yeah.
And Councilman Wade has been 8 years with us at least. So a lot of hard work. I can tell you that we all know, anybody that thinks we get paid well in this room is crazy. We all know that's not the case. I know we're all here to do what we feel is right and to serve the community the best way we know how. And I personally am appreciative for all the hard work that you all have done while you're here and everything that you were able to accomplish. And with that, how do we do this? You said you needed to take pictures.
I want a picture of all of you together with your flags. So.
Okay. So Mindy, you're representing your husband here tonight. Thank you for being with us. Come on up. We'll get everybody their plaques and get a picture.
You have a picture, and that's why
Smart man.
Where would you like us, Ryan?
The center, right in the center.
Come on up. You can stand right here. One thing I'd like to read also on this, and I think it's fitting for the occasion, says, true leaders inspire others to strive for excellence and appreciate each individual for their contribution. You are that kind of leader, and you have brought out the best in others. By serving on the Roosevelt City Council, you confirmed your role as a true community champion. Your dedication is commendable and continues to be an important part of developing a winning strategy for Roosevelt. You are a great example. Thank you, Roosevelt City. So, Joe,
Thank you, Mayor.
thank you for everything.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
It's been a pleasure.
And me.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, so what do we want?
Did you?
All of you in there? What do we want?
I think so.
Let's have
Those
those
three outgoing
together.
Okay, that sounds good.
Can
Okay.
you ditch the coat out there? I'm sorry.
Yeah, Joe, right there. Let's do it that way. Should try to set up.
I hate pictures.
I do too. Hold on. I'll make you look good, Mayor.
All right, just cut me right out.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll have the new council now come up, I think.
Well, I will swear them each.
Oh, swear them in.
I need to swear them in. Now, whether you're going to do it all together, I don't have a problem if you want it all together. You're saying the
I
same
think
thing.
we did that.
Actually, let's do Hal Huff first, Mayor.
Yes.
Let's do Hal Huff for the housing authority.
Oh, yes. Actually, let's swear him in and then we'll have to appoint him. So let's do it that way. Sorry. So the new city council, Karen will get you taken care of. You'll stand next to her.
So, going
Right here. Thank you.
Put that in the chat. Okay, you will raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support, obey, and defend
I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and that I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity.
and I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity.
Okay, I will give you these certificates. I'll need your signature, then you hand back, and then you keep the other one. The top one needs to be signed and given back to me.
So you need the top piece, you said,
Then the top one, you keep the bottom. I apologize, I don't have your new, nameplate yet.
Does it matter where we sit?
That's up to the mayor,
What's that?
where they sit.
Go ahead and sit wherever's,
Mayor?
No problem.
Just one picture of all of you.
okay. Yeah, come on up and we'll have to take a picture here. And then wherever's convenient for now, and then we'll.
Well, you can sit anywhere you want as long as it's up here.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
It's gone, no, you probably have to pick something else.
Where do you want the new ones down?
Just wanted to
Oh,
see the
one
next
of
one.
you to get this one here.
That's
The best one is this
a
one.
big seat to fill right there, so.
The biggest shoes to fill.
Squeeze in one more right there. You ready?
Ready.
Congratulations. These are comfy.
All right. Let's do this. So we kind of keep in line with the rest of our agenda. At the beginning of each meeting, we have a public comment period where the public can come up to the pulpit or podium and address the council for up to 3 minutes. Is there anyone here that would like to take that opportunity tonight? Seeing none, we'll move forward. We have Hal Huff here. Hal, what is your legal name and social security number so we can get? Harold. Harold. Okay. Cindy is here with the Housing Authority Board as well, and she was asking me, and I was like, I've only known him by Hal, so I have no idea. But Harold Huff. So we'll have Harold come up. First of all, I'd like to, for the new council, I don't know how many council meetings that you've attended, but Hal is here almost every meeting, and he's pretty faithful at that. And we had a need in the Housing Authority Board for somebody there, and felt that Hal would do a really good job, and he'd be consistent and thoughtful and do a good job there. So I would like to present him to the council to be appointed to the Housing Authority Board, and would entertain a motion to do that.
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
I'll second it.
I have a motion by Councilman Baird and a second by Councilman White. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Now we'll get you sworn in. And your first meeting is tomorrow.
It's informal. I guess we could have done it there. Just wherever. Okay, where to take a picture, Bill?
No, this one you're doing, you do your thing.
Okay. Raise your right hand. I, Harold Huff,
I, Harold Huff,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support,
that I will support,
obey, and defend
obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United
the
States
Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this state,
and the Constitution of this state,
and I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity.
and I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity.
Okay, sign right here, and then you're good to go.
Looks like a chicken walk truck, eh?
Let's see.
Thanks again, Hal, for
I would
doing
like
that.
to hand these out now to the council. It's not necessary right now, but I will need those. We have to do this annually.
I was thinking it's ready for, yeah, one. She's one. I bet she handles you.
Did you sign the purchase orders?
Yes. What is this?
That's a good question. Let's ask that question.
Okay.
Before we approve them, when we go to approve them, I can see. Yeah, because I have no idea. All right, the only other thing we have on the agenda is, I put an item on the agenda. I've been talking with Ryan Claiborne, with
Thank you.
Kirby, and a few others. Thanks, Cindy, for coming. And I don't know if anybody has noticed, but we're a little shorthanded. And so we're looking at filling some positions. We're working on filling the city manager's position. That's going to be a slow process where we have a recruiter for that, and could take quite a bit of time. It could possibly go into March, April before we actually have a city manager. However, we do have some other areas that we feel like we can hire people and or appoint people. One of those is, well, Karen, do you mind if Carolyn's part-time, and she's agreed to stay on with the city part-time, but we felt it in the best interest of the city to have a full-time recorder. And so we want to hire a recorder or appoint a recorder, and then have Carolyn assist and train and help that new recorder. And she's willing to do that. So as we've talked about the city recorder's position, in state law and state code, it mentions that the city recorder is the ex officio auditor of the city. And so we've always had two different, it's been interesting, and Dave, maybe you can share a little bit about this, but we've always had two different positions, the finance director, the city recorder, and then we've never really had an official treasurer where it's been appointed. Randy, you've been serving as the treasurer though, is that correct? Kind of.
We don't have a treasurer.
So we don't have a treasurer, but we're by state law supposed to have a treasurer. And so we've been working all of those things out and trying to plug all those holes. Now, the main thing is as we were looking at that, and I know I've talked to a couple of the city councilmen, I felt it might be best to have the recorder and the treasurer be one job description. We met with the city attorney to get his opinion of that today. Yes.
Did you say the recorder and the treasurer?
Oh, no, excuse me. The recorder and the finance director. Be one and the same. And they're an appointed position. It does a couple things. First of all, it gives us the proper checks and balances between the city manager, the city recorder, and then we'll also officially appoint a city treasurer. And so all those positions will be appointed by the council, and therefore not beholden one to another, so that one could not manipulate the other. Does that make sense? So we have the proper checks and balances there. Legally, we brought it before our legal, our attorney today. And he said legally, he says he has no problems with it at all. We talked to staff a little bit about it, and there's still question marks in there as to how that'll work out. One of the things that was noticed is the finance director in the past has been over HR. And my personal feeling is that HR should be someone that's a little more third party, or a little more on the fringe, that's not tied directly to some of that, so that staff would feel comfortable coming to them without feeling like there would be any repercussions for those types of things. So we had some discussion. I don't know, Ryan, do you want to kind of talk about some of the ideas we had with the HR? And
So when we met together with the city attorney and everything, we felt that getting an outside HR, and this is only, correct me if I'm wrong, Mayor, is it just temporary? It is through this time. So it's not long-term. Is that what we're?
Right.
So it could last up to 3 to 4, maybe 6 months.
Or even a year. I think the contract would be up to a year, he said.
Whatever it may be, whatever you guys decide you want to do there. Anyway, they would come in and they would assist us in the HR area to help us do some of the HR within that in-house, and also to help us hiring and getting a structure on job descriptions and who we're going to hire, and advertising that way and pushing it. Is there any others that we?
The only thing I can think of is, because the treasurer, there's really not a appointed treasurer, and we couldn't find a job description for a treasurer. But
It's pretty much accounts. Sorry. I've looked into this a little bit, and I know the treasurer is pretty much the person. It's pretty much accounts receivable. The person who has the money and holds the money and verifies the money's in the account. I think anyway.
And so I think they write checks, if I'm correct. The treasurer writes checks as well. Or
I think signing authority and treasurer are different.
Okay.
Right. But we got to look into this. There's some real clear state.
So are these duties set by state statute?
Yes.
Of the treasurer?
Correct.
So we don't necessarily
need to reinvent it.
We just need to find that and make sure that that's what the treasurer is.
Correct. And one of the things that we wanted to potentially do, because the treasurer's duties didn't seem like they were that many compared to the other duties, we were thinking of eventually working the HR into what the treasurer would be, into their job description. And then whoever we would appoint as the treasurer, while we had this part-time or this third-party firm helping us, they would be training, and also whoever we appointed as the treasurer would become educated in that or get whatever training they needed to become the HR head. Does that make sense? And I'm not asking for a decision tonight, other than we wanted to run it by the council for a couple of reasons. First of all, if we could outsource HR for now, that would help us in that area and relieve some of the burden. And then we were hoping that by bringing this up tonight, that the council would study those things, that we could potentially have a position that we could vote on by next council meeting, as far as recorder, finance director, those types of things. The treasurer we're not really too concerned about right now. It's the recorder, finance director, because Carolyn has a set amount of hours she can work each year. And because she's been working almost full time, she's burning up her hours very quickly. And so we want to get somebody in that can assist her in what she's doing, but also that she can train before she gets through all those hours for the year. Does that make sense? So that's why those positions are coming before the council tonight as kind of pressing, but we don't want to rush it either. We just want to start that process. So instead of waiting for the city manager to be appointed and everything, it could be 3 or 4 months still. We wanted to start working on at least that one position, take care of the HR, and relieve the burden of those that are still here for now. So.
Because we may not have a city manager till what, March, April?
Mm-hmm.
So have the recorder maybe in February would help the speed, so.
You're not gonna have one in February.
Yeah,
End of February, March, whatever it may be, but it's still
As
better
soon as you
than
advertise.
April.
yeah. We're hoping if we get an approval, if we agree on the job description by next council meeting, we can approve that position and advertise then, which will put it into the beginning of February to allow adequate time for people to respond. And so we could potentially, at the soonest, probably have somebody ready to appoint by our meeting on the 3rd Tuesday of February. That would be probably the very soonest that we could do that. And that's if somebody just falls from the sky and lands in our laps. But the main conversation is, the question is, would the council be okay with Ryan moving forward with a third party HR for now, and at least advertising for that position so that he could bring a recommendation by our next council meeting? And the second one would be, would the council be okay with our city attorney creating a job description that would encompass the recorder and the finance director as kind of one position? So we take the HR from the finance director, give it to the treasurer, make the recorder finance person the same. And then they could hire a deputy recorder beneath them that could potentially handle the PIO stuff. And
So because this is a little different than it's been done in the past, it sounds like finance director would not have as many responsibilities because John was the treasurer and the HR and finance director. So
yeah,
my question is just how do we make sure that the positions all stay balanced with how much work that they're required to do?
and that's what we're trying to do. So like you said, the treasurer, finance director, HR, all of that, if we pull the HR and the treasurer off, we put the recorder there, but then we allow the recorder to hire somebody like Lee or whoever else that would assist in the recorder duties and do the public information stuff. We could look at it at that point, and if we needed more help, obviously we can hire under those. The thing that I really like about the initial structure is that the treasurer is appointed, the recorder / finance director is appointed, and the city manager is appointed. Now, the city manager could ultimately, if it works out, however we decide to work that, could oversee those other departments. But the great thing is just like our city attorney, there's no fear of them. I mean, if there was something that they needed to address, they wouldn't have to fear one single individual. It'd be the council that they talk to, which gives them the ability to bring things up that may be uncomfortable, or, just so that there's the proper check and balances there. So the initial structure, I think, is sound. How many people we have underneath that may change, and we can massage those job descriptions a little bit in the future just to make sure that they come out balanced. But we're just kind of stabbing in the dark right now and saying this is kind of our best guess. And within 2 weeks, I think we could get something. I did send out, it was late, but I did finally get the job descriptions of the finance director and the positions that we're talking about to the council. So that gives a couple weeks to look over those. Any ideas or thoughts we could get to the city attorney, and then have him incorporate those into whatever we bring to the next council meeting. So, any thoughts?
My only thought was, if those things were, if we had a finance director here doing all those, and we took those away, how much of his time would then have been, does that make sense? Maybe we need to adjust the pay, I don't know. It just seems like we're taking some responsibilities away that obviously we don't have that person here now, but if someone was doing that and then they feel like they were on vacation, or how does that look?
Well, and I'm giving them the recorder responsibility. So the way I look,
So they would be gaining some other.
Yeah, they would be gaining some other responsibility. They'd be gaining oversight of the recorder responsibility. So, and the other thing I got thinking is I just looked at what John was doing, what Carolyn was doing, and what Lee was doing. And in those positions that we're kind of combining, there were 2.5 people, 2 full-time and 1 part-time person doing those. And if we took the HR away and the treasurer away, and we left the public information and the recorder and the finance and everything else, then I think it would justify at least 2 full-time positions. And then we could see if it would, justify another part-time in the future. But really, so we'd be replacing 2.5 with 2 for now, but also giving some of those other responsibilities to the treasurer.
I think it works.
How does assistant city manager fit in?
We're not having one.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. No.
All right.
And that's the thing is, so that is a great question. It really isn't, any department head could be the assistant city manager, meaning when the city manager is gone, there might be a few responsibilities that individual would assume while the city manager's away, but it's very minute. In Vernal City, their city planner acts as the assistant city manager, but it's not a assistant city manager position. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
What do you think about that, Rick?
I actually prefer that personally.
Okay. And that's kind of what we thought too. I mean, we have you, Ryan, Kirby. I mean, you guys, you know what you're doing. To have another level of in there, I don't think is helpful, but.
So what Councilman White was saying about possible pay adjustment may be legitimate because they wouldn't have that responsibility.
Right. And whoever that, let's say, one of the department heads, and we'll allow the new city manager to decide once he gets going. He can assign somebody to be his assistant, and what that means is when he's gone, they can kind of take over some responsibilities, and we can look at, and I'm sure it'd be his decision to look at, okay, they're going to pick up a little bit of responsibility. Maybe they get a little bump in pay, but it's not like an official, well, I don't know. Does that make sense?
It does.
How do you feel? Do you feel okay about that?
I do.
Okay. How do you all feel about that?
I think that would work out just fine.
Can the treasurer, you mentioned them being a half position, can they be I mean, we've got plenty of talent here within right now. Can that position go somewhere with in-house or?
Well, the treasurer, I know you want to, let me address that, and then Dave, I'll give the time to you, but the treasurer would be a full-time position. And it's a mandated position by the state to appoint a treasurer. But I definitely think we have people that could handle that in-house, but we would still have to appoint someone, and Randy comes to mind just because he's kind of been doing that, but so, I mean, it wouldn't have to be Randy. You could apply for, some of the others that might be open, but I'm just throwing that out there.
So in the state code, it says the city treasurer is custodian of all money, bonds, and other securities of the city, and he shall determine the cash requirements of the city and provide investment of all money by following the procedures and requirements of the State Money Management Act. And then he also receives all public funds and money payable to the city within 3 business days, keeps an accurate, detailed account of all money received, and then also collects all special taxes and assessments as provided by law and ordinance. I think that's pretty much what
Right.
Randy's already doing, so there's a lot more duties and specifics on how to do the job in the state code too, but those are the general duties of a treasurer, so.
Excuse my ignorance being new, but is there any, and I don't know, but is there any qualifications, requirements for that position? Like I know city manager had some stipulations, I understood, or like a public administration or a business administration, some sort of degree. And I don't know, I was just asking.
Well, that's a great question. I think we set those as a council.
So we
that's
set
more
those
Yeah.
city code, yeah.
So we decide how stringent or how loose we
Right.
can make that. And
Well, I'm okay with that. I just didn't know if, I just want to make sure we follow state code, and if there was some, and as long as we can set it, we want to make sure that.
yeah,
In the job description, it does have some minimum qualifications listed there, so whether we want to add.
do we have
to
a treasurer job description?
This one, assistant finance.
Yeah, that's the finance director, but so so the finance director recorder is what I'd like, because we do have actual job descriptions of
Right.
those already. If the council could look at those, and one, if you're okay with combining those 2 positions to where they're appointed, then we can move forward with Grant and have him start forming those job descriptions, and then we can have input on what we'd like to see as the minimum requirements for that. And then once we get that position filled and kind of work out the bugs there, we can move to the city treasurer position and work through that. But that one's, I mean, Randy's doing that right now already. He's doing kind of both. But
Another question, sorry, just clarifying as I'm learning here, the HR, our HR person is someone that's already doing something else, and they've helped with HR as well, so they've had several hats kind of thing.
yeah, well,
The late assistant city manager
was the HR. So
Okay.
he had
And what
several
we're doing is trying to combine that with another position,
the treasurer
the
position.
treasurer position, and put them over HR, but you want to do a outside for the interim until we
Correct.
get, okay.
And the
Just
reason
making
is,
sure I understand. I
Yeah.
thought that's what I understand. I just wanted to clarify.
no, that's perfect. And part of the reason for that is when we talked to Grant today, our attorney, he had mentioned in Duchesne County, they've done similar things. So what they did is they hired somebody, or they actually just assigned somebody to the HR and then tried to train them in the middle of it, and it ended up in a disaster. And he said it ended up in the person getting terminated, but it wasn't their fault. It was just, you know what I'm saying? He
Right.
said it was just circumstance and he said what they ended up doing then is hiring a third party, HR, and told them right up front, you're to help us with HR, but one of your main directives also is to train this person. So by the time they're gone, this person knows what they're doing. And then it's a smooth transition. We don't have.
Perfect. I appreciate the clarification there for me. Anyway, thank you.
So for some clarification for me, on the description of the treasurer, does the treasurer have to be the one that physically takes the money in, or can they oversee the person that physically takes that money?
I think
The treasurer receives all public fund and money payable to the city, but
That would be that position, I
Yeah.
would assume,
Yeah.
if somebody underneath that did that.
So then if someone underneath them did that, that would be okay.
I think, yeah, it does talk about duties of a deputy treasurer, and I don't know if that's something that could be delegated or not, but.
We'll look into
we can
that.
look into it.
And in our next Tuesday meeting, we can ask that question to Grant and make sure that we can clarify that. He was going to be here tonight, and I told him I'd call him if we had some really tough questions. That's on the verge, but I think we can probably get that answered
Okay.
next week. But, yeah, I see what you're saying.
And the treasurer does sign the checks, I guess. Is that, and I know our
Yeah.
city structure right now is a little different than state code because our finance director was actually the treasurer, which is actually in state code, it says the finance director shall not be the treasurer. So,
Yeah.
So we did some swapping of responsibilities to keep internal controls at the time. I think Ryan had already gone through all that, but I kind of threw a fuss over it back in the day. But we're in a good situation. We've got all controls in place, but we're just.
This will clean that up and really, instead of it'll look like it should instead of just, because before, the way it was run before, I mean, and so we'll have to look at Vicky's position too and see where her position fits with cutting the checks. We'll have to look at where payroll fits, whether it's under finance or whether it's under treasurer. But yeah, I would assume that the finance director / recorder would have one and maybe two people helping them. The treasurer would also have one person helping them. So we'd stay with the same amount of people basically, but we might just put those people where they're actually supposed to be functioning to make sure that it's visible and easy to see that we have the separation that we
It's a
need.
good thing that we're doing this with new people, because if you try to train someone else that was doing it a different way, it probably wouldn't work very
Yeah.
good.
This is a good opportunity to make sure everything, and we just want to get it right, but we feel like we're pretty close. Obviously, we just want to make sure that, one, we get the council's blessing, and two, we get the council's input in the next couple of weeks before we bring it up for final approval. But I think we are kind of under the gun with the HR, because we'd like to start advertising immediately to kind of take care of that. And then one thing that Grant did say is, once we do find somebody that'll help us with the HR, they can help us with the rest of the hiring processes and those types of things.
So do we need a motion for the HR?
So we need a motion probably to move forward with posting for the HR, and then a motion to proceed, to not to approve, but to proceed with forming the job description for the recorder / finance director position, if that's the way we want to go. If you guys want to go a different route, we can scratch that and do that, but that's just a suggestion, so.
I really like what we've discussed, and I don't have anything that I recommend different than that, given the discussion we've had, so I would make the motion that we do those two things. that you just
Could you
mentioned.
restate that?
Just what the mayor had just spoken to, we need those two motions. I'm making the motion for those two things.
So
Mayor, do I have
motion
those?
to
Yeah.
approve advertising for an HR outside third-party HR consultant, and a motion to proceed with forming a job description for the recorder / finance position.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a second by Councilman Busenbark. I almost just said booze. Is that okay?
It's okay with me. I don't know if most people know me by that.
Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. We'll get working on that. Thank you. We'll, purchase orders. Everybody get a chance to look at those? Any questions on the purchase orders?
Yeah, just what's PEHP?
Insurance.
Public
Insurance.
Employee Health Program. Okay,
Public Employees Health Plan, I think.
program.
Program, thank you.
Any other questions on the purchase orders? Would entertain a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve.
Okay,
Second.
Motion by Councilman Busenbark and second by Councilman Cody Allen.
I wasn't gonna help you.
Change gears with 3 new ones.
I know it. I couldn't get the first one. I can remember a face from anywhere, but a name is. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. I will get working on the committees, the different committees that we have. I'll probably be getting with each one of you individually at some point and just talking about, we have planning and zoning, we have the economic development committee, we have the arts, parks and rec committee, we have safety, city beautification, and I think those are about the 5 that we have, because we've kind of consolidated some, so we're not having 15 different meetings into the arts, parks and rec and the economic development and those types of things. So I will get looking at that, and if any of you have any interest in those things, I know some of you do, then get with me and I'll try to accommodate the best I can. But ultimately we'll make those assignments and get that straightened out. Ryan, do you have anything for us tonight?
Just a couple small things. Did the new councilman, have you been able to get your email address activated and things like
Working
that?
on it, but
You shouldn't be asking them, they don't.
No, it may be.
I directed Andrew to do that today.
I got an email today, I told you, and I haven't had a chance to look at it, but I'll.
If not, I've got something here that'll walk you through. Hopefully that makes sense to you.
You may have some email waiting for you to look at already.
the password didn't work.
Fan mail.
But when you use that password, it's just temporary. It's not you're gonna be forced to do another one.
Do you know the reason you will now use the city email for all of your city correspondence?
Public record, I
For me,
imagine.
yeah, public record. If anything is on your private one, it becomes open for grandma requests. People can.
Don't send me anything else to my. I don't have anything to hide anyway, I don't care.
So your agenda's not going to come to your meeting.
Okay. Just a quick update on the status with employees and stuff here that we've got some positions we're trying to, and I think we're doing an excellent job. I really do. I mean, there hasn't been a whole lot of complaints on, hopefully that's come up, but I just wanted to give you an update on who's filling where and the voids that I've filled. So when you come in, there's different faces. So when you come in the doors, you'll see Aaron Brown helping on the front desk. Now his regular job is the golf course. And where they're slow, we thought it'd be best that he can come down here and assist on the front desk to help Randy, so he can get back in the office and do some stuff with finance and focus on that and make sure nothing falls through. So, and then I've got Edwin Butterfield helping with the website along with Lee Nicole. So he is very tech savvy, and that's what he's going to be doing as well. Carolyn's picked it up as far as the planning and zoning. The zoning, before Ryan did a lot of zoning issues and stuff and took the bull by the horns on that. So now Dean and Carolyn are covering the zoning very well, and we have no problems there. Kirby's helping me, assisting with some of the things I need, and staying in the loop there. And obviously my guy Sawyer Stray that was, that's under me is now taking the water source and running with it. So a lot of changes, but I think it's good. I really do, because I think all of us are learning. We're getting a little bit of cross training and we're seeing what we do. So I feel like in the end, it's actually going to be a blessing. I really do, because now I respect the city manager's role and what they do. I respect everybody and what they're doing. So I think it's a good thing. I really do. So if I have any other changes, I'll let you know, but that's kind of, so you're going to see different faces do different things for the next few months. Real quick, I don't want to take too much time. Next council meeting, there'll be a public hearing on the 2 million gallon tank. Earlier, we did a public hearing on this 2 million gallon tank. We're gonna do it again. We pulled our application from CIB. Thought it needed tuned up, and now we're going back in. And we're gonna be aggressive this time and go after it. So what we're doing for the new councilman is we're shooting for 2.5 million through CIB. We're needing a new tank, a bigger tank on the top of our system. Right now, at the top of our system, we just have a 300,000 gallon tank, which is pretty small in the scheme of things. It's only the same size as our pool. And that's all the water that's going to Roosevelt City and the surrounding areas is going through that. So what we're requesting is an upgrade to a 2 million gallon tank. So that'll be a public hearing on the 21st. I would advise if you know anybody or anybody has concerns or anything like that to come in, ask questions. Think about it. If you guys have questions or concerns about it, please do so, because that's what the public hearing is for those things to come out and be out in the open.
What did you change to hold off for and then now go aggressive? Was there any changes or things that we need to get in line before?
The only, with the application, the biggest change was, so CIB is not economic development. They're not into that. In fact, you can't really say that word. That's
Right.
So in our previous application, we had to where we approached EDA, which is Economic Development Association, and we were trying to get some money from them, funding from them. And at the time, we thought it was a good idea and stuff, but when the two were talking, wasn't good. So CIB did not like EDA, so we pulled everything out of the application that had anything to do with economic development and stuff. And it's kind of a funny deal because our system is getting stressed by growth and the result of growth of the system and population, but we're not promoting it. It's just we're needing this tank because of it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we're
To keep up.
So it was basically just to not make it like it was a.
Well, yeah, so what CIB likes to see is that you already have the need, and so you're filling a need.
You're not building it for future needs.
Correct, and then the EDA is just opposite. But because it was pitched to the EDA in a way that it was going to create jobs and all this other stuff, when it went to CIB, it was tainted. And so Ryan and I met with Kevin and Lori at UBAG, and I had some side conversations with some of the other county commissioners in the Uinta Basin that are on that CIB board. And that was their suggestion is you've got to pull it out, clean it up, resubmit it. Because in all actuality, there's more than enough evidence or reason to get the tank based on our current need, not for future growth. And so that's what we're
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But we weren't aware of that conflict before.
Well, I think
It seemed like
It
something might have come
came
up.
across innocently, it really did. We were just trying to get funding from where we could.
Mhm.
And so.
You just have to pitch a different sales pitch to EDA and then different one to.
Yeah.
And now we're going in not as a sales pitch, this is actually what it
This
is.
is what we need.
We need it, we've been talking about it for years, we really have, so. In fact, since I started here, we've been talking about it.
Again, forgive my ignorance, but why do we need a public hearing on it? Is it because there's going to be some tax increase, or is it
No.
because of the location, or I just don't understand.
So anytime you go to CIB, you need to hold a public hearing because you are going after grant money and or a loan. The main thing though is what CIB is looking at, and the reason we're doing the public, we don't necessarily need to do the public hearing again. It'll look better on our application if we do,
Right.
because there was zero comment on our last public hearing except
And
for
we mentioned EDA.
Yeah, and we mentioned EDA, and the only comment was what Ryan had read. So all those people that this affects, we're going to try to get them to the next meeting to show support of that in the comment period, so that when it goes to CIB, instead of saying we had a public hearing, nobody came and there was no comment, we can go to the CIB and say we held a public hearing, public came, these were the comments, and if they were favorable, if they're negative, they're negative, but
At least we know,
at least we know, yeah. And then,
and you have data to,
and they look highly on that. That's one of the things being told by Kevin and Lori, the CIB board, they get stuck on certain things at different periods. And this is one of those things that they're really stuck on, is making sure that our minutes are accurate, that when we hold public hearings, that there's comments or at least, support of the project. And that it looks much more favorably when we go to CIB. So.
thank you.
That was one of the reasons I brought it up tonight, is because I wanted to plant the seed, and because I know 3 of you, this is new, so. I mean, I'd love it if you thought about it for the next 2 weeks, and if you had a question, whether it's how we run things and how it affects the pumps, the chlorination, whatever, I mean, bring that up. Any questions would be great, so. One last thing, I know this is a little minor, I don't know what phone calls you guys get, so I know I get them, probably because I'm the water guy, but just as a heads up, we are having some meters freeze. So some homes are freezing, obviously, because of this time of year, so if you do get a phone call or whatever, it might be wise to run their water and then call the city office on direction on what they need to do, so. I don't know if you get them kind of calls, but they're getting a little worse. Our freeze ups are starting to pick up, so.
Just get me one of those hoses to stick on my muffler and I'll go around and thaw them out for you.
I'd love to do that. I didn't put your name on it. Anyway, that's all I had. If there's any other questions you have for me. No.
Thank you.
I just want to take just a minute, and I've seen more in the city building in the last few months than I've seen in a long time, probably my whole time here. And watching these guys pick up the slack and everything else, I am super impressed and grateful for all that you do. And this is a tough time. It's hard, but it's good too. I can see the good that's coming out of it as well, and just want to show my appreciation for all of you. So, well, I don't think there's anything else. Would it be appropriate to go into closed session for just a minute to talk about a certain employee? Or do you think that's
That's up to you.
we can do it because it's not a big thing, but I don't know. We have an employee that's ill and
If you want, we can.
going through a tough time. We can talk about it after the meeting because it's not a, individually you can update the council, but if nothing else, would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a motion and everybody seconds, I think.
I gotta have a second.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned. Thanks, everyone.